This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
He's Greg Bedard. I am Nick Cattles. Of course, this is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles, and it's brought to you by, in part, PrizePicks. Check out their app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You also want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download that GameTime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Before we get to the Cardinals matchup, Greg, let's start with some news around the league today. And we begin with Denver. Of course, the Patriots are likely to be looking for a left tackle this offseason. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. The fact that there are some good names that would be available, at least when we talked about those names, they were available. Jacksonville re-signed their left tackle, extended him. Forget his name is like Walker Little or something along those lines.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then today we find out that Denver extends Garrett Bowles. Just your thoughts on Bowles getting extended and how challenging this is going to be for the Patriots to find that guy.
Yeah, I think that's a sneaky, huge move, Nick. I thought of all the guys potentially available on the market, a guy who could plug and play left tackle and maybe free you up to do whatever at the top of the draft, whether it's Hunter from Colorado or an edge rusher like Abdul Carter from Penn State or what have you.
Right.
When you look at the list of potential free agents, well, first of all, the number one guy on the list is Ronnie Stanley from the Ravens.
Yep.
The chances of him getting the market are like 1%. Like he's had some availability issues, but he's been one of the best left tackles in the game. I don't think the Ravens really have another path. So Ronnie Stanley's definitely going back. Garrett Bowles would be the next guy at the Broncos. Now, he's a step below Ronnie Stanley, but he's a good, solid left tackle. And him being 33 years old this year, you thought, all right, maybe the Broncos say, all right, it's time to move on, that sort of thing. So, I thought the chances were decent that Bowles was going to get the market. Maybe they could have franchise tagged him or done that sort of thing.
Right.
But now that he's re-upped, now you're down to Cam Robinson, who was traded from the Jaguars to the Vikings. He's been playing okay for them. That they made a trade for him, you probably think they're going to try hard to re-up him, even though I think they've had injuries. That's kind of why they needed him. So maybe he's available. I don't think he's any great shakes, but when you're where you are with the Patriots, he's an option. And then probably the big one to watch is DJ Humphries, who just signed with the Chiefs. I don't know if he's played for them yet or he's about to play for them. I think this is the first week.
I want to jump in. He played. He tried to play. He hurt his hamstring. The last I saw was he was getting an MRI on the hamstring.
Wonderful. So, I mean, there were a lot of Patriots fans who were mad when DJ Humphries, he was coming back from an ACL, something like that, a serious injury, and he was finally declared healthy, and he ended up signing with the Chiefs. And a lot of Patriots fans were mad, like, why didn't the Patriots do that? Why didn't they offer him a lot of money? Why didn't they go to 2 years? And you just look at it from DJ's perspective. I mean, you're just coming back. I mean, really, ideally, you hook on with a team that's good, that goes on a deep playoff run. You get to showcase yourself in the postseason, and now all of a sudden you're the number one guy on the free agent market. Why limit yourself to a 2-year deal when there's no tackles available in free agency, and so why not bet on yourself? And we'll have to see with the injury what happens there. But this is the problem, Nick. I mean, and this was a lot of my frustrations with Belichick. It was part of my frustration with Elliott Wolf not being a little bit more aggressive, trying to take a tackle, say in the second round, or trading up, targeting a guy. And look, none of those guys have been any great shakes other than there was a third rounder who has started and played well.
Brendan Coleman.
Yeah, Brendan Coleman. I think that's for the Commanders. And so you just if you leave yourself vulnerable, especially at left tackle in this league, like there's not going to be many options on the free agent market. You have to draft and you have to develop. And and this goes back to Belichick. It's not just a Wolf thing. This goes back to years where I was standing on the table for them to take a tackle high up in the draft. Don't want to keep doing the Trent Brown thing over and over again. And now here they are. And I think we'll see what happens in free agency. Obviously, free agency happens before the draft. But if they don't get, a legitimate starter at left tackle in free agency, you're going to have to go tackle high in the draft. And whether that means trading down or just staying and picking the best guy there, whether it's Will Cooper or Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks from Texas or the Ohio State kid who came out, like they're probably going to have to go that route anyways. You're probably going to have to sign somebody and go that draft route. But, long story short, Nick, if you're banking on free agency for the Patriots to solve their tackle problems, especially at left tackle, then I think it's a pipe dream.
So DJ Humphries made it through 86% of the snaps. He left midway through the fourth quarter with the hammy, and he did not practice yesterday. So he was a DNP yesterday. The free agent that I'm looking at, and I think is going to be available, certainly, is Wills from Cleveland. He's had a bad year. I get it. And he's had a little bit of a back and forth with the front office and coaching staff out there in Cleveland. But he was picked high in the first round, has a lot of talent, is still young, and he's been in Cleveland. Alex Van Pelt, Scott Peters. It would certainly make a lot of sense to say, all right, let's try to sign that guy. It might not solve the problem, which is obviously an issue. It's a little bit of a lottery ticket because how he's played and he's had some injuries. But again, he's got a lot of potential. And if Peters and Van Pelt, as long as they're still on the staff, are looking at it, they could say, we think we can get something out of him. So I'm keeping an eye on Wills because I do think he will get to the market because of that relationship he's had with the organization. So,
Nick, it's a good point by you. I think it's safe to say that we'll know what Alex Van Pelt and Scott Peters think about Jedrick Wills, depending on whether they sign him or not. I mean, if they think he's the guy and has talent and won't be a problem and is coachable and all that stuff, yeah, it totally makes sense that they would go all in on a guy like that.
As far as how Elliott Wolf handled the tackle position, look, I know this is going to trigger some people. I couldn't care less. If we want to try to play Monday morning quarterback, Greg mentioned it. The fact is, none of those guys are playing well. Roger Rosengarten is playing well. He's playing okay. He's playing right tackle. Brandon Coleman is playing left tackle for Washington, and he's been better than Vidarian Lowe if you go by Pro Football Focus. But all the other guys that were drafted in the second round, they've been bad, if not downright awful, to the point where Kingsley Suamataia, who is a guy that Greg and I talked about and many others talked about, he's been so bad that they went out and they signed Humphries, and before they signed Humphries, they tried Morris, and Morris didn't work out. Kansas City got to the point where they were playing Joe Thuney at left tackle. That's how bad Suamataia is right now. So, it's not like there was a magic elixir. And the Patriots tried to trade up for Guyton. Guyton mentioned that in the post-draft press conference in Dallas. He said that the Patriots try to move up in the first round and draft him. That's what he was told by his agent. And Guyton's been terrible for Dallas. And if you look at Rosengarten and Coleman, there are a couple of similarities. Who are the quarterbacks playing for those two teams? Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. Do you think that helps the tackle position when you have those two athletes in the pocket? I do. The offensive lines for both of those teams are also pretty damn good. They're both in the top 10 to 15 when you look at, pass protection composite rankings, I do believe. And so you can send extra help to those rookies. So to say that Roger Rosengarten, again, he's playing right tackle, if you plopped him in here, well, what does Caden Wallace look like? We don't know because he hasn't played enough yet. Hopefully he's back this weekend. It's perfectly reasonable to believe that Wallace could be as good as Rosengarten is. And as far as Coleman on the left side, I don't know if you could put Brandon Coleman in this situation starting the year with Jacoby Brissett and the rest of this banged up offensive line. I think a lot of people are focused on left tackle, and I understand why. I don't think left tackle has been the biggest problem. I don't think it's been close. I think left guard was an abomination, and I think Owenu at right tackle was terrible. And the flip-flopping, Owenu's gotten better the last few weeks. But it's really been about the interior of the offensive line and Jordan falling off the rails and getting released. Vidarian Lowe has played at a level. Has he played at a starter's level? Probably not, if you look at the PFF rankings and stuff like that and the grades. But he's just outside. I think he's ranked 65th in the league. There's 64 tackles playing right now. So, I mean, it's not like there was an answer there. Tyron Smith's on the IR. That was the biggest issue. Greg and I talked about it. Injury history. He didn't last with the Jets. So, I mean, we can go through it. Jonah Williams we'll see this weekend, but he's playing on the right side, and he just got off the IR in late November. So I'm not trying to excuse Elliott Wolf. What I would ask people is, what was your answer? Because the answers that people just throw out there against the wall, guess what? They haven't been good. So this is more about, to me, what you mentioned, Greg, 4 or 5 years of just ignoring the position in the draft and continuing to draft interior offensive line and believing in Trent Brown and trying to patch this thing together. They should have drafted a tackle 3-4 years ago. They thought they had one and win. They swung and missed on that pick in the first round. And so this is what you're left with. The highest drafted tackle in years for this team was Kajust. I mean, all the tackles they've taken in the last 4 or 5 years outside of Caden Wallace, you're looking at 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round guy. Like, the easiest way to get a tackle in the league is drafting in the first round. Plain and simple. That's how you have the best shot at landing a guy who's bona fide. Speaking of the offensive line.
Yeah, Nick, one thing on that I just want to mention, because I do get the Kingsley Suamataia like thrown in my face a lot. It wasn't, when we talked about it, the idea, those guys that were, second round, third round, like, they're drafted there for a reason. They're not drafted. You don't draft starters in the second and third round. I mean, right. On most teams, like, the idea was, what kind of potential does this guy have? And you get him in the system. And that's why, I've always believed this, and I believe this even more with the lack of development that we see with college offensive linemen. I've always believed that unless you're talking about like a top 10 pick, I think it's incumbent upon you have to have, it's almost like developing a quarterback. It's almost the same thing. Like, you have to have a plan. You have to have a progression plan. And from the teams that I've covered, just from, the Packers, whether it was Brian Bulaga or the Patriots with Nate Solder, like, those guys, when they drafted them, and Nate Solder was like a middle of the first round pick. Like, we're not talking about a second round pick. They brought him in. Matt Light was still there. The thought was, we'll bring him in. He'll play right tackle. We'll teach him. We'll progress. And then he'll take over on the left side. To throw a lot of these second and third rounders in at left tackle and expect them to swim, to me, is just unrealistic. So it's incumbent upon the team to have, whether you bring in veterans in free agency, whatever you can, squeeze whatever you can out of them, but to give these guys time, because to develop offensive tackles outside the top half of the first round, it's going to be a 2-3 year process. And so you have to have a plan. You plug and play some of these guys. I mean, Patrick Paul in Miami's been a disaster. You're just, it's not a winning formula. So drafting and developing at the tackle position are incumbent. And I do think Elliott Wolf believes in that. I think, like I said, the Packers practiced that. I do think the Caden Wallace thing was, ideally, he said when they drafted him, we think he has the potential to play left tackle. But I think, they really wanted to go probably to right tackle initially and then figure things out. So I think that's an important part of the process.
And to reinforce your point there, I just pulled it up. I do this research every quarter of the NFL season just to keep up the work because I want to be a man of my word and pay attention to Vidarian Lowe versus these other tackle options. And to reinforce your point, I mean, this is after week 13, so this doesn't account for last week, but this was after week 13. Patrick Paul had 100 snaps of football this year. Blake Fisher had 114. Suamataia had 164. The two guys who have played the best, Rosengarten has 679 and Coleman has 521. And if you compared that with Vidarian Lowe had 605. So, those guys, Patrick Paul, Blake Fisher, Suamataia, those teams are not rolling those guys out as starters. They're barely getting any snaps this year. So they're hibernating, so to speak. And I know some people will say, yeah, but Nick, if they drafted a tackle last year, then you'd have him developed and blah, blah. Number one, we don't know if that guy would have developed. We don't know if he would have developed and been ready by year 2 in 2025. And also, here's the good news. The Patriots have another draft coming up, and they have 2 third-round picks, and they're going to be, pretty high in the first round and second round. So they will have an opportunity to draft a young tackle in this upcoming draft. I also think the Jalen Polk season, he's been an absolute bust to this point. That makes people even more angry because they go, you wasted the pick on Jalen Polk. And I think if they drafted Ladd McConkey, who, by the way, was hurt last week, not to say he hasn't been good, he's been really good, but one of the questions was his frame and is he going to be able to hold up in the NFL? And, he was out this past week, so you keep an eye on that. But if Ladd McConkey was here and he was putting up the numbers that he's putting up out there with the Chargers here in New England, I don't think there would be as much bitching about the idea of drafting Polk and not drafting a tackle in the second round. One quick thing before we get to your fine words about PrizePicks this week. I did want to ask you, getting ready for this weekend, speaking of the offensive line, what would you do with Cole Strange, Greg? Because he's off the PUP. It sounds like he's going to play. I know that Mayo said, well, he could play guard, he could play center, and Mayo did not sound, did not sound like he was keen on the idea of a rotation. What would you do with Strange?
It's a good question. I'm really leery of messing with Drake Maye at this point, which goes to, do you put Strange at center? Do you rotate him in with Ben Brown? I think that's asking a lot. I think I would probably try to get him possibly a series at left guard at some point in each half and sort of go from there, see how it looks. But I'd be really leery of throwing him out there. I mean, I think, Layden Robinson, it wasn't great, but it was okay. And he has shown some promise. I'm fine with Ben Brown. I think he's been rock solid at center. Is it great? No. But I do think that left guard, once Michael Jordan went off sort of a cliff 4 or 5 games into the season, I think that left guard has been their biggest problem area. And so I'm probably rotating him with Layden Robinson in this game. I would take it slow, but I really do not want to introduce a new center to Drake Maye on the road, where the Patriots, their bad lines don't travel. The Patriots line has not traveled well this year. I'm not messing with that.
You and I agree on that 100%, sir. All right, let's talk about PrizePicks.
PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 200 times your cash. Run your game all season. Log on PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. I love sitting down for a game and making my selections. I'll do it for tonight's game, 49ers-Rams. Probably pick a lot of Rams guys, but that's the way I like to do it. Other people like to do the whole weekend or a whole day. I'm more of I want to sit down, I want to root, I have a blast with it. with the PrizePicks app. Make your holidays bigger and brighter with PrizePicks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. Join now because this holiday season, PrizePicks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
All right. So the podcast we did earlier this week, we talked about, hey, Bill Belichick might end up at North Carolina. Well, today's podcast is, hey, Bill Belichick ended up in North Carolina. He's about 5 minutes away from doing a press conference down there with the media. Greg, your reaction to Belichick going to UNC, this becoming official, and also your guy Mike Lombardi being the GM of the program.
I guess my reaction is a little, I'm a little melancholy. I'm a little sad about it. I mean, number one is sort of selfish. I mean, Bill Belichick being back in the league and comparing what he's doing to what the Patriots and Mayo are doing, like that stuff would be like too delicious. It would give us so much content the whole year. Now he's at Chapel Hill. I mean, who gives a crap? I'm sure he'll do fine there. I know he has big plans for what he's going to do. I like how he's setting things up. I think he's going to borrow from Dion, where Dion doesn't do the glad handing that other coaches have to do. I'll be interested to hear if he does a weekly radio show. That was always classic with Nick Saban. Nick Saban even had that with the Dolphins, and like he used to have a media guest every week, including I was there a couple times with Nick Saban at a sports bar taking questions. So that was always interesting. I can't see Belichick doing that. But I'm glad. I'm happy for Bill. He wants back into the game. There's been some reporting, especially from Wickersham. He must be like, can I get off the Belichick beat now? Like he's not even in the league anymore. That Bill was, really frustrated with the NFL and with these owners, and some of the veiled shots at people who passed on him from people like Mike Lombardi. His latest was he went after Tony Khan, the son of the Jaguars owner. And so, I think the NFL is stupid. I think he should be in the NFL. I think Bill has brought a lot of this on himself because he's too much of a control freak, and nobody thinks at 73 that he's going to relinquish that. Everybody knew he would come in and try to dominate things. So I think, people are afraid of that. But I think he'll do fine. I mean, I know the Felgers of the world are like, North Carolina, it's not even like a real program. But the way the landscape is now, I mean, the ACC just got 2 teams into the playoffs. You're telling me Bill can't get into the playoffs next year with the transfer portal and what have you, and then you get into 1-game situations? I like his chances. But bummed he's not going to be in the NFL, but I'm glad he's going to be still coaching.
I'm not sad for Bill Belichick. I don't know why people are sad or disappointed, or my guy Greg says melancholy. I'm not sad. I'm not melancholy. From Belichick's perspective, the man won 6 championships here in New England. He has won, 8 Super Bowls in total as a coach at the NFL level. His legacy is rock solid. Nothing is happening to it. It's safe. It's secure. He will go down as the GOAT. Also, this is by Belichick's making, folks.
Yeah.
He wanted a job on his terms. And I know that the Wickersham story says, Bill didn't want full control, and he told the Falcons that he didn't want full control. But Wickersham also says, teams knew that wasn't reality. It wasn't likely because once Bill gets in the building, Bill's in the building, and he's going to want to do things his way. And I agree with that. He gets to do that in North Carolina. They're following his 400-page organizational Bible or whatever the hell they called it, right? So he's getting exactly what he wants. The rumors are that they're going to get $20 million in NIL money. I know there's not a lot of college football fans here in New England, but trust me, $20 million for NIL money is huge money. It's like Ohio State kind of money. So he's going to be able to go into this transfer portal and grab some of the best with just the money that he has to offer. I'm not sad. I'm not sad for Belichick. I'm actually happy. As a Patriots fan, I covered the team, obviously. But the fan in me, I'm actually very happy with this because I didn't want Bill to go to another NFL team. I didn't want to see him wearing another hoodie. It would have felt weird to me. And there was always the possibility, if not probability, that he would go to another team and fail, and that would have been sad. What would have been sad is Belichick trying to hang on here in the NFL, not getting to do it his way, and failing, and then just kind of leaving the league at 75 years old with, slumped shoulders and just kind of walking out of the league. Like he gets to end it and say, all right, my last job was with the New England Patriots. We had 2 dynasties. We had 20 incredible years. We won 6 championships. I got to coach the greatest player of all time, and it ends the chapter. It's a very clean ending to me, which I think is better. And yes, from a content standpoint, him coaching elsewhere would have been great. But me personally, on a selfish level, I'm happy about this. And I will be rooting for him. Not when they play Notre Dame, but I will be rooting for Bill Belichick to win as many games as possible with North Carolina. I want to see him ride off into the sunset as a victorious head coach. Whether it was in the NFL or at college, I'll take either. All right, let's get to the Cardinals matchup. Arizona, Greg, has lost 3 games in a row. So I ask you, what's gone wrong?
Well, in the last couple games, they've been really sloppy, and Kyler Murray has 2 interceptions in the last 2 losses. He has 5 interceptions in the last 3 games. But you got to look at the context, and you got to look at who they're playing. The 3-game losing streak that they're riding in this game on. 2 of them were against the Seahawks, a divisional team that they played in 3 weeks. So we're talking about teams that know each other the best. That's why I emphasize division games and how they, should be close. The other team was the Vikings. And you look at their losses overall this season. So you have those 3. They've lost to the Bills, the Lions, the Commanders, and the Packers. I mean, those are all playoff teams, like all, really good teams that have a chance to go deep in the playoffs. So, we're not talking about losses to like Jacksonville and Indianapolis. I guess it would be a good loss for the Patriots, but we're talking about they've lost to legit teams. So when you look at like DVOA and other measures, like they're not a bad team. They're sort of like a middle of the league type team. But the big thing, over the past couple games is they've had a lot of penalties. They had like 4 or 5 holding penalties. Again, in this latest game against the Seahawks, they had another 9 penalties against the Vikings.
What are they, the Patriots? Is this going to be is this going to be a 7-hour game on Sunday with 155 flags?
It could very well be, but my overarching view of the Cardinals is don't sleep on them because of their record or their 3-game losing streak, because this team is not bad. I do think the Patriots have some matchup advantages in this game, but this is another one of those like step up in competitions. I would say they're a little bit better than the Colts. So this is going to be a battle.
Cardinals offense versus Patriots defense. Talk to the people.
Yeah, I don't like this matchup at all. I really don't. I mean, look, the name of the game is going to have to be, you have to get pressure on Kyler Murray. He's been sort of bottom third of the league against pressure. Actually, his stats are his PFF grade is like just above Drake Maye. They're like right next to each other. And he's really struggled in the past couple weeks. All of his interceptions have come against pressure. They don't give up a ton of pressure. It's usually around 30% or a little bit less, but it's the Patriots have to get pressure on Kyler Murray. They have to keep him in the pocket. They have to put pressure on him and just rush him a little bit. Can they do that? I don't know. I think it's a big question mark. I mean, I think they're going to need huge games from the edge guys, whether it's Keon White, Anthony Jennings, Ngakoue. Those guys are going to have killer games. And I do think if there was any time for Christian Barmore, especially coming off a bye week, he played a few weeks, gets a bye week to rest up. If there was ever a game for Barmore to announce his presence with authority to reintroduce himself to everybody, this would be the game. Otherwise, this Cardinals offense is a freaking pain in the ass. I mean, they will go out there. They run 3 tight ends out there, including a blocker. Tip Ryman was a guy in my redraft after the Patriots draft I wanted them to get as sort of a blocking tight end, help out the tackle type of guy. They roll 13 personnel with 3 tight ends out there more than anybody else in the league. They run a lot of 12 personnel, a lot. It'll be interesting to see how the Patriots match up to that. Do they bring in linebackers? Is it just safeties? Because it keys their running game. Their running game, James Conner's one of the best running backs in the league. Yep. They run a lot of power. They run a lot of, all sorts of stuff that the Patriots have issues with. And then you have, their passing game. Trey McBride at tight end is really good. Frequent targeter Kyler Murray. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. on the outside, of course. Dortch is a good speed receiver that can sneak down the field. I think this presents a lot of problems for the Patriots, but they have to. I expect the Cardinals to get back to, we have to be a run-first team, because if they can stay ahead of the chains, sort of like the Patriots, if they can avoid the flags, stay ahead of the chains, run the ball, that offense with the play action and pulling people is a pain in the rear end. And the Patriots do not react well to this stuff. And so that's a big matchup in this game.
DeMarcus Covington, I think, is going to be happy about this matchup. If they can be effective at all against the run, because we know Covington loves to blitz. And the only way the Patriots get pressure in 2024 is by blitzing. Kyler Murray has been absolutely atrocious against the blitz. So that's your key to victory right there. If you can slow down that downhill run game and you can put them in a tough situation on third down and blitz and get some pressure, Murray is not good enough to just do it all by himself if you can get the pressure on him. It's also one of those, you got to trap him. And Covington said that about Anthony Richardson. And as we know, the Patriots did a not so good job of trapping Anthony Richardson. But if you can keep Murray in that pocket, we all know when he was getting drafted, the big question was his size. He's not great with bodies around him, and you can bother him because he can't see above the traffic at all times. So you got to keep him trapped. You got to blitz him. If you have opportune times to do so, you got to send the blitz at him. And I do think he'll have some issues. But if the Patriots can't stop the run, none of that will freaking matter. All right, before we get to the Cardinals' defense against the Patriots' offense, Greg, tell us about Game Time.
Nick, some of my favorite memories of my childhood are going to games, especially football games. I've been to the Orange Bowl. I've been to Pro Player. I've been to Foxborough Stadium. I've been all over the place with my dad, my brothers, and my mom. And to get that kind of sensation, that kind of memory, you got to be there. You got to go to these games in person. And to get there, you got to check out Game Time. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Love the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. They have the panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. I have to do that every time. You want to see Drake Maye, you want to see Justin Herbert, maybe a little bit of a shootout in a couple weeks. I just saw on Game Time you could sit in the lower bowl in the hundreds in really good seats, like in the middle of the field, for $163 all in. If you just want to get in the stadium, you're talking like $40 or $50 over at Game Time. I also just used it for concert tickets with my wife, and she's still talking about it. We had such a great experience and had awesome seats thanks to Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
Belichick has stepped to the podium. The first thing he said was, big crowd. So there you go. Cracking jokes. Billy the joke maker. By the way, if you're wondering, part of this for North Carolina before we get back to the Arizona game coming up this Sunday is obviously what he does for the brand, so to speak. And NFL Network is covering this press conference. NBC Sports Boston is covering it. 98.5 is covering it. I'm sure many other radio stations and TV stations are covering this press conference. So just the first day on campus, and everybody is talking about UNC football. That ain't happening if it's Tommy Rees, who reportedly was going to be the next man up if Belichick didn't take the gig.
Who?
Tommy Rees. Who? Tommy Rees. What? He played quarterback for Notre Dame years ago, didn't he?
That's right.
Isn't that the offensive coordinator that Nick wanted to kill? Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
That's the guy. He would drive Nick Cattles crazy watching Notre Dame football when he was the OC. He'd drive him nuts. Anyway, back to Cardinals Patriots. You said the Cardinals offense was a tough matchup for the Patriots defense. How do you feel about the Cardinals defense against this Patriots offense?
Love it. If we get a little bit of a refreshed Ramondre Stevenson coming back from the bye week, if he sort of straightens out what he's been going through in his little 3-game slump. Of course, they have Antonio Gibson, who sort of watching Zach Charbonnet of the Seahawks go through this Cardinals defense reminded me a little bit of Gibson, hits the holes a little bit harder. The Seahawks really used a lot of gap scheme to really expose the Cardinals on the ground. They've had a tough time in recent weeks, like 5 yards a carry, 4.5 yards a carry. Is Van Pelt going to take advantage of that? Or is he going to do, more wide zone stuff? What's he going to do? But I think I love this for two reasons. You can run on the Cardinals. They're very small up front in the linebacking core. They are fast. So I think that the Patriots they should have the ability. Everybody's running the Cardinals. They should have the ability to do that. Also, the Cardinals play a crap ton of zone coverage. We've talked about it with the Colts and the Rams. Drake Maye's 2 best games. Those are 2 of the highest zone percentage teams. The Cardinals are right there. They're like right behind the Colts in terms of amount of zone coverage that they play. So, for those 2 things, now, have to run the ball. And then the other thing that Drake's got to worry about in this game is where's Budda Baker? You got to keep an eye on Budda Baker. You got to know where he is. He's the type of guy that can ruin things, come out of nowhere, get an interception, get a blindside sack, strip sack type of thing.
Yep.
So, I really like the potential for the Patriots offense and Drake Maye in this game to keep rolling. I love the prospect of Drake Maye getting a bye week to recharge and dig into a little bit more film on the Cardinals. I think he's going to be dialed in. I think we have the potential for a shootout in this game. Nick, one of those crazy Patriots-Cardinals games that we've seen in the past. And, I'm not impressed with the Cardinals on defense. They're way too small. They have no pass rushers either. There's no pass rush.
They don't have a single pass rusher, whether it's edge or interior defensive line. They do not have a single one in the top 20 for pass rush win rate. I think that's the first time this year the Patriots have faced a team that doesn't have any guys listed in that statistic. They have not been able to get pressure. And they try to get pressure with, the stuff that we've talked about, creeper schemes and simulated pressure and all of that. And they will throw a number of, cover zero blitzes as well if they find the right time, the advantageous time to do so. So they will play some games up front, which means the communication has to be sharp for the Patriots offensive line. But, what you mentioned about Drake Maye and how he's played so well against zone, that really is, Greg, to me, kind of the magic about Drake Maye, what he's been able to do early on through his first, 8 starts or whatever, is he really does force teams to play zone, because when teams play man, he absolutely murders them with his legs. Now, eventually, you might start having a spy on him, but even if you do that, he's shown that he can get by that guy. So it's really a tough spot for defenses, because if you play man, you're going to give up those scrambles. You're going to give up pivotal third downs. And, if you play zone, a lot of people thought, hey, force Drake Maye to be patient, force Drake Maye to beat you on the first and second level defensively, because he did not do that well at North Carolina. Well, so far for the Patriots, he's done a pretty good job of attacking defenses on that first and second level. So if he continues to do that, he's a pretty damn difficult matchup, which is why you hear coaches like, Sean McVay and Mike McDaniel say, yeah, the kid's good. Dude's good, because it's tough to attack a guy like that, who's that athletic, who has his arm, but also has been able to show that patience. All right, before we get to our prediction, Greg has yet another ad to read, because he's a busy man, folks.
That's right, I am. When it comes to keeping my home comfortable this winter, there's nothing more important than having a reliable team to handle things like heating, cooling, and plumbing. That's why I'm so glad I worked with Noturno Home Services. These guys are local. They are family owned and family focused, and have been servicing the greater Boston area for 15 years. Not only do these guys, were they speedy, free estimate. I had my new oil burner installed within a week. They were neat, even though it was muddy outside. The craftsmanship was awesome. But what blew me away was, I talked about it last time, our heat. We were getting any heat upstairs when my boiler was barely hanging on, trying to get to service day. And I had them check it out. They said there was a faulty valve. And guess what? They replaced it for free, Nick, because that's the kind of company they are. They said, we're not going to leave you like that. That's not what they do. They care. They're family focused. They're family friendly. I loved working with them. This kind of service just doesn't happen every day. They were on time, professional, made the entire process stress-free. I couldn't have asked for a better experience. Noturno isn't just about heating either. They're my go-to for plumbing, cooling, even water and air quality solutions. They've got the expertise to handle whatever your home needs. Here's the best part. You can get 10% off your next service with Noturno. That could save you up to $1,000 on your next project. Just visit noturnohome.com/Bedard for all details and conditions. That's NOTTURNO home.com/Bedard, BEDARD. Take advantage now before the end of the year. These deals won't last forever. Trust me, having a team like Noturno Home Services in your corner makes all the difference. Whether you need a quick repair or major installation like I had, just in a day, they did it. 8 a.m., 5 p.m., boom, out. Didn't even lose my water either. They'll get the job done right. Check them out today.
All right. If you haven't had enough ads or promos, I got a few more for you. Get ready. If you want to check out Boston Sports Journal, you can knock $10 off the annual subscription fee with the promo code HOLIDAYS. That is through 12/31. So December 31st, up until then, you just plop in holidays, use that promo code. They take $10 off for the year. Also, PrizePicks, we talked about them. Use code CLNS, get $50 instantly when you play $5 in GameTime. Use that code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Before we get to the prediction, a little Bill Belichick press conference update. We've got a mixture of corny and fun, Greg, corny and fun. So here's what we've got so far. I can update you. UNC gave Bill a short-sleeved hoodie, not a shocker. So that was presented to him. Bubba Cunningham, who is the athletic director of North Carolina, unveiled his sport coat, which was a sport coat cut off at the sleeves. So I'm sure that got all the laughter. But yeah. a cool moment, an actual cool, genuine moment, is Belichick actually brought his father's sweatshirt that his dad coached in from the mid-50s. He apparently has kept it this entire time. So there's a picture of it, and it's just a sweater, has UNC on the front with the number 38, and said that he brought his dad's UNC sweatshirt from when Steve coached in Chapel Hill in the mid-50s. Belichick also, look, he knows how to win over a crowd, folks, when he wants to. You got the happy-go-lucky Bill Belichick, charismatic. I'm making you laugh. I'm smiling. I'm happy to be here. He said that he's always wanted to coach in college football. This is a dream come true. And he also added, again, this is I know exactly what to say. You're going to eat this up. He also added that because his father was a coach at UNC, when Bill was a kid, his first words were beat Duke. So there you go.
He's here all week.
Yeah, he's here all week, folks. Enjoy the veal. All right, let's get to the prediction. I am 6-7 against the spread. I am 6-7 straight up. I'm consistent, baby.
Yeah.
Greg is a disaster against the spread.
Wow, disaster.
But he's been. I don't know how. Yeah, okay, I was going to say the math didn't add up, but the math does add up, Nick. I'll be okay. It's been a long week. Okay. It's only Thursday. Greg is 4-7-2 against the spread, so maybe not a disaster, but not great. But he is 8-5 straight up. So when he picks the game straight up, you want to listen to this guy. The line this week, Greg, is Cardinals -6. The over/under is 46. What do you got?
So I do like the Patriots' chances in this game. However, I think that the Cardinals are just going to have too much on offense. I do think we're going to have another great Drake Maye game. It could be another game where we say that's the best he's played all year to top last week. But I don't like the Patriots going on the road, even though Arizona isn't the hardest place to play. There will be a bunch of Patriots fans there. There are a bunch of Patriots fans out there. But I do like the over. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. And I do think that the Patriots, they might fall behind by double digits, but they might get like a late cover. So I am going Cardinals 30, Patriots 24.
I'll go Cardinals 23, Patriots 19. It's going to be difficult to get to 19, but somehow, some way, they'll get to 19. You can trust me. 4 field goals from Joey Sly. He knows they brought a kicker in this week. All right, folks. His right leg is going to be pumping heat. Pow, 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 pow.
Romo?
Yeah, he's gonna stiff arm Romo. He's gonna be smashing that football in Arizona. 4 field goals from Sly, 1 touchdown because the Patriots can't score in the red zone. And by the way, Arizona's red zone defense is legit, one of the best in football. So I'm gonna go 23-19. Let's close out with this another Belichick thing here. Well, 2 more things. Apparently, he has announced his first coaching hire, Greg. He has announced that he will be keeping Freddie Kitchens on the staff.
Wow.
So Kitch getting it done down there in North Kakalaka. Belichick and Kitch. He also was asked about coaching, why he wants to continue to coach at age 72. He says, it beats working. When you love what you do, it's not work. So best of luck to Bill Belichick down there in North Carolina. We're done. We'll be back early next week to recap. Probably another loss. Hopefully they keep it tight. Hopefully it's interesting, competitive. But until then, I truly, honestly mean this, folks. Be well.